Today's September 27th. Looks like the patch went live yesterday. This is 30.4.3. Just skimming through the Battlegrounds stuff right now. So the most exciting news that I see so far is that they're planning to remove the Leapfrogger. Unfortunately, not in this patch though, in 30.6. So I guess that's in 2 more patches or something like that. I don't know why they're not just removing it now, but whatever. Instead, they're just going to remove the tier 1 minion that spawns 2 taunts and replace it with Kindly Grandmother so that it doesn't spawn as much stuff. I guess that might help a little bit. I have played a couple games this patch, and Leapfrogs still seem like a powerful build, but we'll see how that goes. Maybe it's a little bit easier to not let it go out of control as much, but we'll see what happens. Looks like some of the weaker hero powers got a little bit of a buff. For example, Ragnaros will get its hero power up a little bit sooner now, and a couple other hero powers are activating a little bit quicker, so you get a little bit faster scaling from them. Looks like some armor changes also happened this patch. And as for the trinkets, looks like the average cost was reduced. It's now around an average cost of 3. This is going to be pretty good so that you're not wasting 2 turns of the game just buying a trinket and maybe doing like almost nothing else on those turns. Okay, it looks like this tier 1 minion is now a 3-3 instead of a 3-2. That's pretty good change. I didn't think Murlocs were underpowered or anything, so I'm kind of surprised they're getting a buff. Mercules also got a buff. And this one I think does need a buff. It was very terrible. I like never found this usable before. Ooh, we got a buff on the stats he gets too. That's a very big buff. So this actually might be a viable card now, I'm not sure. But there's other cards that I think might still be better, so I'm not really sure about it yet. This also got a buff. Wow. I guess Murlocs were underperforming. I actually found them pretty strong before this patch, so they must be really strong now. Let's see, and I don't see any nerfs, so I guess Murlocs are probably pretty good, at least at the MMR that I'm playing at. I think Murlocs are very strong right now. Crackling Cyclone got a buff of 1 extra attack. And ooh, this is actually pretty good. I didn't really like this minion before. It was almost unplayable unless you buff the shop a lot. And now it looks like it might actually be a viable card to buy, which is good because if you don't get it early enough, it can be very annoying if it has no stats. Okay, nothing too interesting for the demons. It looks like they just got some stats buffs on 3 of them. Nothing crazy, but they do need a little bit of a buff, I think. I guess dragons were underperforming, so they decided to make the dragons a little bit more powerful. Oh, okay. This one's actually getting a nerf, sort of, but it's lowered it to a tier 4, which makes it a lot more easy to use. So you can actually buy this earlier in the game and start buffing the minions that keep permanent buffs, which is really nice. And this is a minion I like never used basically ever. Let's see what it does now. It went from being a tier 4, 3-5, and now it's a tier 5. It has a little bit more stats, and it gives +2 health. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to feel about this one. It wasn't really one of the cards I was using in my dragon builds, but I might test it out now. Just a minor stats buff here. This one actually has a pretty good buff. It has one extra stat in health and attack, and its buffs also give more stats. So that's pretty good. It's actually a tier 4 now. That's crazy. This is actually way stronger. Now you actually have a chance of making this work. So this is a crazy buff. Went from being 1 tier lower, and it has more stats. So yeah, this was actually a pretty decent card before if you pick it up early somehow, maybe with the Discover. And now I think it's actually a very good card. You might be able to put this in like a menagerie build where you're not really going one specific tribe, something like that. Or maybe even a regular pirate build. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it really fits in the normal pirate builds right now. So it looks like Naga's getting a couple buffs here. They've lowered the tier for 2 of their buffing cards. So now it'll be a lot easier to scale your Naga earlier and not always have to level up to tier 5 to do anything with them. So that's pretty good. Before you had to get very specific Nagas to make the build work. And now I think it actually could be a more consistent build. Looks like this one's getting a buff again. I think it went from 2-2 to 3-2, and now it's a 3-3 buff. And the actual stats on it are slightly less, but again, not something you really care about. And Lightfang getting another buff. Interesting. I guess the first buff wasn't good enough. Maybe that trinket that gives you this is actually viable now. I haven't personally used it too much because I don't really go colorless that much. I usually lean towards a specific tribe since it's a little bit safer to do. I haven't really figured out any good colorless builds that are actually like consistent yet. Now this is an interesting one. This used to be a very good spell because it would always give you value, since it usually cost 3 gold to buy the minion and then 1 gold to pass it. So for 2, it was a really good price. But instead now they've lowered it to tier 4, so you can get it a little bit easier, but now it costs 3. So I'm not even sure if I would ever buy this anymore. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's only a 1 gold discount from just buying it and passing it yourself. And most of the time when I bought this, I was hoarding it to use it on a later turn. So I'm not really sure if this is actually a good spell anymore. I did like it before. Now I feel like it's kind of mediocre. I'm sure there's some value you can get. Like for example, if you have a minion that you've already played on the board, you can now pass it to your teammate. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I like this change. I kind of like the spells being a little bit powerful so that they're actually usable, because a lot of the times I play games and I don't even end up using the spells almost at all. Okay, this spell got a slight buff. It's now cost 1 less gold. I think that's pretty good. A lot of the spells I feel like were underused, and now I might actually consider using this one more often. Devour's gotten a discount. That's pretty good. Very good spell. Sometimes you just have a minion that you've been buffing the stats on all game long, and it no longer makes sense for your late game build, and you just want to eat it up and keep its stats. So I definitely like these kind of cards that don't make you lose all the value you got from the entire game on minions that are no longer that useful for you. And it looks like that's pretty much it. So overall, I would say nothing crazy in the patch. Hopefully leapfrogs are a little bit weaker. That's honestly been the most annoying part of my games lately, is I've been facing a lot of leapfrogs, even post-patch. If you found this video useful, consider liking and subscribing for more videos like this.